At the age of 12, Winthrop Rockefeller, using a magnifying glass and the sun's rays, burned into wood these words by Edgar Guest. Somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he, with a chuckle, replied that maybe it couldn't, but he'd be one who wouldn't say no till he tried. So he buckled right in with a trace of a grin on his face, if he worried he hit it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it.
What is Winrock? Many times I've been asked that question. Many times I've answered it. Never have my answers been twice the same. However, my answers have always been accurate because, to me, Winrock is many things. First, Winrock is a farm. Over 3,000 acres on and around the Petit Jean Mountain in the heart of Arkansas. Here, some of this land was once of such marginal quality that the soil itself seemed to despise life. What is Winrock? It's a business. In 1954, the employment provided here kept Conway County from being declared a disaster area during the drought. And it's an investment, not only of money, but of faith. Faith that the future belongs to those who are willing to do battle for it. Winrock's a home, a very personal part of myself. A place my family and I can share comfortably with many. What is Winrock? Winrock's a community, one in which people of different backgrounds have united to fight, not each other, but the common challenge. But more than anything else, Winrock has become a way of life. A way of life as new and strange to me as life itself must be to a newborn calf. Yet like a newborn calf, I find I have inherited memories that make familiar the faltering steps I had to take before walking was possible. Winrock has also been to me a form of education. I've been fortunate to have around me men who were willing to learn with me while they also teach. It has been from the daily lessons forced on us that has come the knowledge we've needed to plan for the future. Our first plans, made back in 1953, there on the porch of the original house, were naive in many ways. It started simply. I wanted to make the old house livable, so I looked around for a man to design 2 additional bathrooms and a kitchen. Ed Cromwell, the architect, built the additions. That was in 1953. As of this interim report in 1957, he is still at work in the building of Winrock. Our basic problem was a spot with a view, nothing else. I wanted my home here. This in itself was not an insurmountable problem, but only a fool would think that a mountaintop with no water could be made into a farm. Yet in the mountainous regions of the state, many people have to wrest meager livings from sites just like this. This was a challenge I found getting under my skin. Despite the terrain, I felt this could be made into a workable, profitable cattle farm. Of course, the first of our jobs was getting to know exactly what our problems were. This meant studying each potential pasture until we knew it well enough to call it a friend. Of tremendous help here was Jim Irving of the U.S. Soil Conservation Corps. After this careful study, we went to work. We faced the job of clearing the land without laying it bare to the grasping hand of erosion. You see, Arkansas is subject to sudden downpours that put you seriously to considering the example set to the late Mr. Noah. Then the state blisters under the long summer months of beating sun with little rain at all. A better formula for losing topsoil has not yet been devised. So it was that each bit of terrain had to be studied and intimately known before the trees could be removed. we had to think of our bulldozer as you would a pair of manicure scissors. It was important to leave just the right trees in the drawers where they could catch the water that drained down to them. And each pasture had to have both the shade and the windbreaks that only trees can give. Years of abuse had impoverished the soil. We had to find out just how badly. After all, the life and the growth of a cow depends in the final analysis on the land it grazes. We had to plan our pastures for rotated grazing. Grass needs time to grow, but cattle get hungry every day. So a maze of fences was strung to divide the acreage into efficient dining rooms. To the best of our ability, we planned for our immediate needs and for the future. It was challenging and exciting to take this old farm and show what could be done, not just with money, but with practical imagination. Perhaps the average farmer will never have as manicured a farm as this we made. But those things which made Winrock practical can be duplicated by anybody who is rich in energy. Scientific pasture planning was only part of our problem. Care had to be exercised in choosing the kind of cattle to be served by this land. The herds had to be able to withstand either heat or cold, excessive moisture or drought. But through all of this, if the project would make any sense at all, they had to thrive on the food available to them. It's easy to build up cattle weight if you pay for imported feed. We resolved to use cattle that would grow on home cooking. For some years, I've been interested in the experiments being tried by the famed King Ranch in Texas. About 70 years ago, they began looking for a breed of cattle that would thrive on the often adverse conditions of Texas. They worked long and hard with the old-line British breeds, crossing them with the hardy but low-productive Mexican Longhorns. These crosses produced more desirable cattle, but as time went on, it was found that the desired qualities died out with the succeeding generations. In 1910, Brahma blood was brought into the picture, and 10 years later, the first American breed of beef cattle was born. Named after one of the divisions of the King Ranch, the name Santa Gertrudis gained fast fame among cattlemen. Here was a breed that would thrive on top of Petit Jean Mountain and not ask for more. Here, too, was a breed that was comparatively scarce, and beef breeders are seeking the new bloodline. G.W. Atkinson owns a farm in Palermo, Arkansas, as big as mine. There he, too, has been raising Santa Gertrudis. Since he's become farm manager at Winrock, he and I have handpicked the basic herd. The Santa Gertrudis has the advantage of the Brahma without its disadvantages. The Brahma is large, but he is not heavy enough in the hindquarters to produce the most desirable cuts of meat. Most important, the Brahma is indifferent to insects and heat. To utilize these advantages and to get the right kind of weight, the Brahma was bred to the Shorthorn, and it was found that the mixture would breed true to type. The Shorthorn is liable to diseases that are hard to combat in this part of the country. The Santa Gertrudis, while being bred away from this, has kept the Shorthorn's meat quality and its heavy, profitable hindquarters. Rock here was brought to Winrock for the highest price ever paid by an individual buyer of a Santa Gertrudis bull. His lines and breeding were what we needed for a good herd. He's a good advertisement, and he's sired over 160 calves. I'll never understand why he looks so unhappy in his work. Our thinking here at Winrock is that we will, by careful breeding and ruthless culling, have the type of herd we want in about 10 years. But even now, we have a few prototypes of what we expect to have then. In establishing Winrock, we resolved that nothing was good planning unless it was sound cattle planning. Of course, our major capital investment was in the servicing area. I don't think many realize it, but there is more capital investment in the average American farm than there is in the average American business. We were careful in the selection of our tools, major and minor. And here, too, all of our basic plans could be duplicated on any scale by any cattle farmer. In the care of any animal, a penny stinted on his health is a dollar potentially wasted in animal loss. Being both a breeding and an experimental farm, constant inspection and checking on each animal is important. But with 600 to 1,000 animals per year, it's a big job. This squeeze chute is stronger, safer, and handier than any other we could find. Made of scrap iron, it can be copied by any farmer. One reason it is interesting to work with Santa Gertrudis cattle is the fact that the breed is young enough to still be developing. There is some place to go. On the other hand, it doesn't always breed true. Cutting the horns, which never seem to grow the same way in any two animals, does much to improve the looks of your herd, and it cuts down the risk of injury. The brands on these animals are important. We have resolved that our brand, the WR, will be put only on those animals that we consider to be the very best of their breed. In the future years, as our cattle are shipped throughout the world, we want our brand to command as much or more respect than the S brand placed on a certified animal by the Santa Gertrudis Breeders Association. There is still much to be learned about preventive medicine for cattle. We want to do research on, among other things, the reason some cows are slow to breed. We'll have a program of publishing our findings when we have them, and so help others increase their calf crop. And Winrock is tailor-made for experiments in the effects of trace minerals on breeding and growth. This program is under the direction of our full-time vet, Dr. James Forgeson. Since a single Santa Gertrudis bull has sold for as high as $40,000, this program can pay for itself with the saving of one animal. On any farm, emergencies happen that need quick care. His leg was broken at birth. Cattle farms have bottle babies too. Operation successful. A week later, he was literally as good as new. In the old days, a cattleman never went anywhere without a couple of 2x4s and some 10-penny nails in his pickup so he could keep his pens and chutes in repair. These pens and chutes are made of used oil pipe, available to any farmer. They cost more to put up than wooden pens, but their only maintenance is an occasional coat of paint. These were last painted 4 years ago. I'm comfortable in the thought that here I have created a situation my children can use. The investment dollar-wise has been great, but it has been long-term. As a supporting farm for the 640 acres we had on top of the mountain, we went into the valley for an additional 2,400 acres. This lower farm, called the Rockwind Division, will be the core for future expansion. Since in the valley, life is abundantly given, it is there that we'll grow our winter feed. This year, it produced 34 tons of silage per acre. Only with this top management team, which includes Ray Lilly, maintenance, and Floyd Trafford, accounting, working with me, could Winrock Farm have approached the dream I'd envisioned. But it seems that each improvement we make calls for 2 more. Then, too, I'm a perfectionist. Winrock might have been easier and less expensive if I hadn't been brought up in Tarrytown. The one job that never ends is that of providing water for the mountaintop. The previous owner of this property once dug a 900-foot well, and for his pains, he's received a slight show of gas. Our approach has been different. We are prepared to pump water up from the valley, but we are doing all that we can to use efficiently the water that falls from the sometimes parsimonious heavens. To do this, we've had to reshape much of the terrain for efficient drainage. Then we've had to provide corridors for the transportation of water to where it was most needed. You know, in these parts of Arkansas, I found out that bathing, as it is known to us, is considered by many a luxury because of the limitations of hand-drawn wells. So, the men who came to work here quickly learned to appreciate the showers we install for their use. It's not unusual on a Sunday to see an entire family dropping by for their weekly showers in Winrock water. To supply this, we now have 6 man-made lakes on Pettigene. Lakes Abby, Lucy, and Elsie, named for Mother and her 2 sisters. Lakes George, Amanda, and Jeanette. The pump house is the heart of our water system. We found it valuable to install spray irrigators as quickly as possible after land clearing, again to combat the old devil erosion. Winrock was the first farm in Conway County to try this. Now there are 28 other such systems in this county. Today, water-wise, we are sufficient unto ourselves. We are proud, too, of the purity of our water, which is constantly checked and tested. A fringe, but very real benefit of our water program has been the use made of it by the community since we opened our boathouse facilities to group events. For the first time in the history of the state, Negro groups also have an adequate place for outings. What is Winrock? Physically, it is a farm and a home, a place that takes up 24 hours of each of my days. Of course, the remaining 24 hours of each day I spend at other things. But seriously, Winrock is always a place where carved into rock are these words: "What does the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God?" This is a thought that is with me each day as I start out on my appointed tasks. Mornings at Winrock are probably the most beautiful time of the day. I find it hard to leave for the office and the day's work, but I'm reminded of my duties by Jim Brand, who has a planning problem for my decision. Lately, of course, all the home problems have been taken off my shoulders by a person much better qualified to handle them. Though for some reason, Jeanette still feels imposed upon if I only tell her for the first time at cocktails that we're having 10 extra for dinner that night. But while I'm gone, in the most mysterious way no man can ever comprehend, she sees to it that all those things are done that are most important if they're lacking. The only real complaint I have is the cooking. I have found my will to diet becoming weaker and weaker with each of Ben's concoctions. I find it fantastic that this man is never fazed by numbers. Breakfast for 2, lunch for 2,700, or a dinner for 100 is SOP to him. My cattle should gain weight as quickly as do Ben's clients. The hub of all of my activities is here at the central office building near the cattle service area. Strangely enough, I found that I'm busier here with outside business than I was in New York. Jane Bartlett tries to keep me straight on business affairs, and Hortense Hudson handles the needs of Winrock Farm. Sometimes I can't help but wish that Mr. Bell had minded his own business, but the telephone does keep me in touch with everybody I need to talk to, and some I don't want to. Every week, about 250 letters come to the office, and even those that don't call for an answer by me personally take up time. Others cannot have an immediate answer because they have to be studied. I can spend $30 in phone calls to find the answers to a letter that cost the sender 3 cents. But be the answer yes or no, the expenditure on research is always worth it. Thelma Irby is my administrative assistant. She handles the Little Rock office, and since that office receives as much mail as we do here at the farm, she comes up several times a month. It is then that we talk about the business problems that come to us from every part of the country and even the world. Of course, not all the demands on my time are business. The Messrs. Mitchell and Rockefeller, for instance, may have a navigational problem to discuss. Being an admiral in the Nebraska Navy qualifies me as a certified consultant. The SS Winrock casts off. Oh well, success is not always measured in feet or inches or millimeters. Always after a pleasant interlude like that, there is the trip back to the office. But I'm conscious of life going on rather excitingly at the main house. The children often use the buckboard that they like so much to explore the mysteries of the mountaintop. Perhaps they're going to the grave of Petty Jean, the French girl who gave the mountain her name when she died, trying to find her true love. Escorted by Bruce, they'll find her there now. It's afternoon. But at night, she is said to walk the mountain brow. Back at the office, there are maintenance and improvement problems to go over. The current question which Jimmy Hudson brings concerns the money to be spent for a cattle operating table. This in itself is no problem. Then GW asks, but where do you put it? And if you have an operating room, what about planning for the future and combining it with an artificial insemination freezer, and an abattoir, and a walk-in icebox? But then George Reynolds comes in to talk about some new investments for Winrock Enterprises. It seems there's a group who has a plan to build a retirement center for the aged. It's a well-thought-out plan, one with a lot of possibilities for return. It's worth looking into. And as GW and Jimmy Hudson take money out of my left pocket, and George Reynolds takes more money out of my right-hand pocket, I can't help but hear my father's voice saying, and what do you have left in either pocket? And often I agree, it's a good question. And speaking of questions, always there are some from Bill Rock, director of AIDC, and George Dudley, president of IBEC Housing. But not all of our visitors are business. Each year, some 60,000 people come to Winrock to just look around. These people range from school children to farm groups who come to study our methods and our plant. It had been amazing to me that we have consistently had people who we would welcome again. And two, you'd be amazed at how often one of these visitors will come up with a suggested improvement that is sound enough for us to follow. Naturally, we feel the most important visitors are the young ones from around this part of the country. The possibilities of modern farming cannot be taught too early. As I look at my son Winnie, I can't help but feel there's something naturally healthy about a boy and an animal together. But education cannot depend on example alone. The Arkansas school system reflects the fact that the state is one of the poorest in the nation. So working closely with the school board, I built a model school at Malton, 18 miles from the farm. Its design is one that can be useful beyond the borders of our state. Divided into separate buildings, it gives each grade an area designed for its special needs. But I found that a building is a minor part of the job. We're constantly working on new programs for the children. And another program is the new Perryville Clinic. Perry County, south of Winrock, was one of 11 counties in the state that didn't have a doctor. Since the standard rate for doctors around here is $1 a mile over and above their fees, families many miles away from medically more fortunate parts of the state were not getting the care they needed. In return for my promise of equipment and 3 years of support, the community raised enough money to pay for the building. A major miracle in a community of this size. Another first for this area is the Petty Jean Airport, which I built and gave to the state. Personally, I find it a veritable lifeline on those frequent occasions when I have to go off and keep in personal touch with Williamsburg or with IBEC Housing. And occasionally, when I'm very lucky, Jeanette's heavy schedule permits her to join me. However, the airport is valuable to more than just the Petty Jean area. When the Little Rock Airport decides to be fogged in, commercial airlines have found this a safe and welcome refuge. And as concerns Arkansas as a state, it has become a real depot for those of us who work with AIDC. AIDC means Arkansas Industrial Development Commission, of which I am chairman. Our task is to create industrial jobs for Arkansans. In our first year of operation, over 10,000 new jobs opened up, bringing Arkansas 31 million new payroll dollars. The economic impact of this program has been so significant that the governor frequently joins us. Frequently, when I am showing my guests the various parts of Winrock, like the fire engine here, I realize that Winrock is a valuable showcase in selling the state. Many people I bring here have no interest in farming, but I can interest them in Winrock and in Arkansas. Many men I find are most interested in our machine shop. Here they can see Arkansas at work. This state has comparatively inexpensive land and labor is plentiful. For instance, for our own needs here on the farm, we found that we were able to hire skilled and willing workers to the extent that we can take care of most of our maintenance and many of our improvement needs. Superintending this work is Jimmy Hudson. For the first time in their lives, many of the Arkansas workers found they were taking direction from a Negro. They may have resented it at first, but as time went on, they found they were comfortable working with a man they could respect, no matter what his color. As I spend my days working with old and new friends, I found that the farm, my Winrock enterprises, my AIDC efforts, and all of the other interests meld into one rather wonderful job, a completely new way of life. And making a new life for ourselves in Arkansas has been quite an experience for the whole family. It's taken a lot of planning to make the adjustment comfortable for those who are around us, as well as for ourselves. Like Ann, we've all learned the value of privacy, as well as we've learned to participate in the kind of activities that bring one into and make one part of the community. The fact that we've been able to make Winrock Farm a hub for the ever-enlarging wheel of activities in the area is a tribute to the genuine warmth and understanding of our neighbors. As we crushed countless yards of gravel to make possible the building of over 11 miles of road, we have recognized the need for two-way travel, emotionally as well as physically. We've sent out into Arkansas what we could. Arkansas, in return, kept the trade balance most favorable. In the evening, as we enjoy friends such as Frank Newell, who was responsible for my coming to Arkansas and finding Winrock, I am most conscious of the fortunate blending we've experienced. The meeting of a great heritage with what is, in reality, a new frontier. Recently, I found my hours at my desk have grown longer. Winrock is a thief of time. It is hard to realize that the day is over when, although you've gone steadily, there is still so much yet to do. I'm afraid only a very patient and understanding woman, a woman as interested as I in this new life I've found, could be a partner in this business of complete living. She's had to become a clock watcher because I've lost the art. I can't count the times when she's prepared the way for functions I haven't forgotten, but merely lost in my maze of practical dreams. It is then that she comes down the road to my office and puts a pleasant period to the end of another sentence in the day-to-day adventure story that Winrock has made of my life. And recently I began a new chapter in that story. To celebrate this, my friends, both old and new, gathered in our new dining room. Birthdays are to me always happy occasions because they mark out a new year there for the taking. A new year in which to do all those things you wanted to accomplish, but for which, in the hurried flight of days, you've had no time. Birthdays are also a time of thanksgiving, and I have much for which to be grateful. I'm grateful for those who have shown me the way in the past. I'm grateful for those who are finding their ways with me now. Jeanette, Bruce and Ann, my friends who have done so much to make Winrock a living, breathing entity. At times of reflection such as this, I know the cynical will say, give anybody enough money and they can physically duplicate Winrock. I'm not arrogant enough to disagree with them. Perhaps they could improve Winrock. But I want to warn any would-be imitator that for the important parts of Winrock, he is going to find the price higher than he realizes. Imagination, hope, time, disappointment, and the effort of starting again and again are the bills that are rendered daily. And these are the bills with no cash discounts allowable. What is Winrock? It is many things to many people. To me, it's a way of life, and I like it.